So it's been a while, and someone wanted to know how my M4 is doing. It's doing alright, definitely not my number one, but it works. There's problems with it. The problems are fixable, but yeah, the problems are fixable. So most of the time this thing just tends to just not work if it's below room temperature. If it's like 75 degrees or below, it's gonna be iffy if it's gonna work, even if you're using good magazines. You're going to have to replace the stock. This is the original stock that it came with. But basically, you're never going to be able to properly operate this unless you bring this cheek pad up. And I know some people don't want that extra height on that their face has to do. So yeah, but basically, when you try and pull the charging handle back, it'll hit this thing right here, and it won't be able to cycle properly if you pull the charging handle back. So you have to kind of replace the stock if you're going to you're gonna have to either, so it's gonna come in like this, and you're going to have to just kind of raise it up a little bit. Doing this with one hand is, there we go. You're gonna have to raise it up a little bit. That was probably enough. That's pretty high. So I replaced the buttstock with just like a normal simple cheapo one. Everything else seems to work fine. This is the forward assist. It works as it should. The bolt itself, it works for the most part fine. One thing a lot of people might complain about is sometimes the nozzle itself gets warped, and mine hasn't really had that problem. Maybe I just need to use it more. The handguard, this is the one that came with it. For me, it feels bulky. I have size large hands, and it just feels bulky. So you'd hold it like this. And it just feels kind of fat. It just doesn't feel like there's a proper way to really grip it, except for like this. Or if you want to do that little, even actually the C-clamp doesn't feel that comfortable actually. It just feels, from this way to this way, it just feels too long. It's not right to me. I know for some people it'll fit like a glove, but for me it's just I could never find a way to grip it properly, so I went with this rail because I wanted a different style, what else? That's this grip right here. This grip works amazingly. If it doesn't fit you, you can always just kind of, if you want to replace the grip, you can. It just kind of pops right in and out, and there's a pin right here to kind of lock it into place. Hold on. Gotta kind of bend it in there. There we go. Oh, it's still not in properly. I'll do this later when I'm not doing it with one hand. Okay, so the paint doesn't chip super easily. There's one mark. The rest is like fine. You can see I put one of those little M4 stickers because I just hated the logo. I tried to paint it out, but the paint started to fade away because I didn't add so I'm just leaving it as it is. I like the serial number. It's just the logo looked kind of ugly on this to me. There's another logo here, so I just put another sticker on it, and I thought that worked out pretty well. There's this guy right here. That's the same thing that's right here, except just a little bigger. This right here, this is a problem that I've had. Sometimes when you're flipping it to semi, to full auto or something, or to safe, sometimes it'll get stuck right here, and you have to use so much force. Like I had to use a pair of pliers and just twist it in order to, oh, it's doing it right now. Yeah, it gets stuck for some reason. Sometimes. So all these marks you can see, all of that is because sometimes you have to get a pair of pliers in order to just twist them around. And it happens a lot when you take the upper off. Like I'll do that right now actually. Sometimes when you take the upper off, most times when you take the upper off, when you just try, it'll just get stuck like right here when you're trying to put it on semi. So sometimes here we go. There we go. When you're trying to flip the semi, it'll get stuck like right here. And then the full auto, it's most of the time okay. It's just flipping between these two is like the hardest, which is why you see all these marks, because it gets really stuck. Like, you see me struggle with it, like, a little bit, but, like, it's gotten so bad sometimes. Like, it gets, like, someone, like, just glued it or something. And I've cleaned out the insides, added a little lubricant to certain areas and all that, and it's something. I think the detent pin is just, wearing out something, so it makes it harder to switch or something. So maybe you might, you might want to get a few replacement parts. To be honest, I just want to replace all of this, except for these two. These work fine, they work as they should. Actually, this needs, I feel like it should be a little stronger. Alright, so this is a bit of a problem. Okay, so you see I got it locked back. I'm just gonna kind of slap it. Sometimes when you slap it, it just kind of like the bolt slams forward, and that's kind of a no-no for me. I just like it just kind of, sometimes when you just hit it, the bolt will go forward. Basically, if you jump up and down like just once, it'll just go forward. So you gotta be ready for that, because sometimes you might already have like a little BB in the chamber, but a magazine's in, or for some reason, and then you had the bolt back because maybe there's a double feed or something, and then you like jump, or you were running behind cover to another place. Once you got into cover, it'll just go forward, and then after that you'll have like a triple feed. So it gets kind of annoying sometimes when it does that. I don't have like a ton of experience with other gas blowback M4s, so I don't know if that's a problem for other airsoft guns, but that's a problem for this one. What else? See, a guy wanted pros and cons. All right, take a look at this charging handle. You see the metal, for some extent, has been worn out a little bit. The camera isn't showing it very well, but it gets a little on the worn out side. It's actually stripped a little bit of metal away. Not just the paint, but the metal itself. Yeah, and on top of that, part of the charging handle right here, some of it's chipped off and worn off also. So I'm going to have to get a new charging handle, otherwise it won't like lock into place like that. Trigger works fine. The range on this is, you know, give or take a little more than 100 feet. So, yeah, it works. The hop up is accurate for the most part. It's not like a laser beam, but it works. Magazine, that's, here, I'll show you a problem. Alright, so I got two magazines here. This is, these are those, if you go on e-bike, you'll see that King Arms makes some magazines for these kind of rifles. And these things are the worst. And what I'm about to show you is just this magazine release. It's terrible. I'll show you. Sometimes, like, when you put the magazine in, sometimes you have to angle it like this. Because if you put it in just straight in like this, it'll just kind of... Oh, there it is. See, you can see it just kind of like... So that's something I notice happens a lot, and let's see if we can see this in the light. Alright, so right here, this is basically, it started out as like a complete 90-degree angle. The magazine release is shaped like this, and because of that, you really can't like stick the magazine in, because it needs to be like more of a curve. So sometimes getting these in, getting these magazines in just doesn't really work. So you have to kind of angle it in. There you go. So you have to put them in at an angle sometimes. Although over time, the magazine release actually has worn out a little bit too. Let's see, you can see a lot of wear. I've put in a lot of wear because the amount of this force I originally had to put in. So maybe get a new magazine release if you don't want to have to deal with that problem. It's not necessarily low quality. It's not just all the metal stripping apart or anything. It's just that it's just the amount of wear that I've used on this. So it took me a while to get the rifle to this point. I learned like from day 2 that you had to put the magazine in at an angle. This magazine doesn't really work at room temperature, and this magazine sometimes works at room temperature. Most of the time it does, but sometimes you just have those days when it just doesn't want to work for you. And these ones work a little better. So yeah, these ones, it goes right in. So what else? When I put on the new handguard, I had no problems. Stock had no problems. Oh, one thing, this one I am going to have to disassemble this for.